Think about the last show you absolutely fell in love with. Think about the moment you were hooked, the lighting, the tension, the feeling that this could go anywhere, that this show was going to be something special. Now tell me, was that season 1? Because I'd bet money it was. There is something about a first season of television that is almost impossible to recreate. And I don't just mean the novelty of it being new. I mean the atmosphere, the tone, the sense that the writers, the directors, the whole creative team had a singular vision locked in, and they were executing it with everything they had. And then, somewhere down the line, sometimes season 2, sometimes season 4, that magic just evaporates. Today, we're going deep on exactly why that happens. We're talking The Walking Dead, Prison Break, Dexter, True Detective, Stranger Things, and The Boys. 6 shows that had first seasons which either peaked immediately, set a standard that they can never reach again, or at the very least capture something that no later season ever quite managed to bottle up the same way. This isn't just nostalgia. They are real, concrete reasons why season 1's hit different, and we're going to break all of them down. Let's start with the most obvious one, but also the most important. When a show is in its first season, the central concept is completely untouched. It's pristine. Nobody has pushed it too far, nobody has run out of ideas with it, nobody has had to write themselves out of a corner they created 3 seasons ago. Think about what Prison Break promised in its very first episode. A man, Michael Schofield, is so brilliant, so methodical, so obsessively devoted to his brother that he got himself arrested on purpose, having tattooed the entire prison's blueprints onto his body with one single goal: to break his brother out of Fox River before he's executed for a crime he didn't commit. That is an incredible premise, and season 1 delivers on it completely. Every episode is a masterclass in tension. Every plan, every obstacle, every guard, every inmate, it all feeds directly into the central concept. The writing is tight because it has to be. The show knows exactly what it is and exactly where it's going. Michael Schofield is one of the most compelling protagonists in television history in that first season, because his intelligence is always in service of a goal that feels urgent, specific, and human. And then the escape happens, and the show has to figure out what it actually is now, and the answer ultimately was that it didn't quite know. Season 2 is decent. Season 3 goes back to prison, which at least shows some self-awareness, but it never recaptures what made season 1 work, because the concept that made season 1 work was by definition spent. You can't break out the same prison twice and have it mean the same thing. The show tried, but lightning doesn't strike the same place twice. This is one of the defining tragedies of prestige television. That concept carries an entire season of television, and then suddenly the show needs 3, 4, 5 more seasons and the concept is already gone. Prison Break is probably the clearest example of this, but is absolutely not the only one. Here's something people either don't know or forget. Season 1 of The Walking Dead was directed almost entirely by Frank Darabont, the man who made The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, and it shows in almost every single frame. Season 1 of The Walking Dead is a film. It moves like a film, it feels like a film, and it carries the weight in the visual language of a filmmaker who understood that the zombie apocalypse wasn't really about zombies. It was about people. It was about grief, about purpose, about what holds civilization together when the structure collapses. That first season, all 6 episodes, is extraordinary television. Rick waking up in a hospital, alone, the world already gone, the tank in the middle of Atlanta, the rooftop, the CDC. There is a bleakness and a beauty to it that feels almost cinematic in a way that American network television rarely achieved at the time. And then Darabont was fired, and the show continued without him. Now, to be fair to The Walking Dead, it had genuinely great moments after season 1. The prison arc, the introduction of the governor, Negan's arrival in that season 6 finale. They were legitimately good television moments. The show had peaks, but the tone was gone. The measured pace, the quiet devastation, the sense that every scene was building towards something. It wasn't the same show anymore. It became a survival drama with great set pieces rather than a meditation on humanity with great tension. This is a pattern you'll see across almost every show on this list. A visionary creator shapes a season 1 with a particular way of using light, of framing shots, of holding silences, and then they either leave or the demands of a longer unforced compromise. And what you're left with is a version of the show that functions but doesn't feel the same. The bones are there, the spirit isn't. Season 1 of True Detective is, by almost any measure, one of the greatest single seasons of television ever made. Ross Cole and Marty Hart, Terry Fukanga's direction, that 6-minute tracking shot, the way the show plays with time, Matthew McConaughey doing what is genuinely some of the best acting ever committed to a television screen. It's a masterpiece. And the tragedy of True Detective is that it was always going to be impossible to follow. Because here's the thing about an anthology format. Season 2 isn't a continuation of season 1. It's a completely new show wearing the same name, new cast, new setting, new story, new director, which means the audience that fell in love with season 1 shows up expecting something that captures the same electricity. Season 2 is a different show, and a flawed one, torn apart. Season 3 was a genuine return to form in many ways, but it still never quite recaptured the lightning of the first run. The show that gave us Russ Cole's nihilistic philosophy, gave us time as a flat circle, gave us one of the most atmospheric crime stories ever told, could never be that good again because the very format it chose meant it would always be starting over. Season 1 wasn't just good because of the writing, it was a combination of every single element coming together perfectly once and never again. Stranger Things Season 1 is a love letter to Spielberg, to Stephen King, to John Carpenter, and it works completely because the mystery at the heart of it is genuinely terrifying and unknown. The upside down of Season 1 is scary. It's this dark, suffocating mirror world covered in spores and organic matter, and we understood almost nothing about it. The Demogorgon moves through walls, Will Byers is gone, and his mother is putting lights on the wall, and she sounds insane, but she's right. Eleven has powers that nobody can explain. There is a dread to Season 1 the later seasons struggle to recreate, because the later seasons have to explain things. The mystery gets mapped, the Upside Down gets a lore document, the Mind Flayer gets introduced, then Vecna gets introduced, and each new villain has to be bigger than the last, and the show gets more expensive and more spectacular, but somehow less frightening. Season 1 works because we don't know the rules, and audiences are far more scared of what they can't explain than what they can. The Demogorgon is terrifying partly because it behaves in ways that don't fully make sense. By the time you're in Season 4, you understand the mythology so thoroughly that the horror has been replaced by spectacle. It's impressive spectacle, but it's not the same thing. And there's something else. Season 1 of Stranger Things is small, it's intimate, it's about a group of kids on bikes and a grieving mother and a police chief who doesn't have it together. The scale is human-sized. Every season after that, the scale expands, more characters, more locations, bigger threats. And in expanding, it loses some of what made it feel personal. When everything is at stake, somehow less feels at stake. Dexter is a fascinating case because most people would argue that Season 4, the Trinity Killer season with John Lithgow, is the best season of the show, and they're not wrong that it's exceptional television, and arguably the best season of Dexter. But Season 1 of Dexter has something that Season 4 doesn't. It has the sensation of a show that could go somewhere truly uncomfortable. The Ice Truck Killer, Brian Moser, Dexter's biological brother, represents a version of the story that the show only ever half committed to. Brian wants to bring Dexter into the fold, to embrace what they are together. And for a moment, watching that season, you genuinely weren't sure what Dexter would choose. The show felt like it might go somewhere truly dark, not just morally grey protagonist dark, but something stranger and more complex. What if Dexter chose his brother? What if the code didn't win? Of course, the show didn't go there, but the fact that you felt it could, the tension, the genuine uncertainty about who this character was, and what he'd ultimately be, that's Season 1 energy. By later seasons, we know Dexter, we know what he'll do, he becomes comfortable, his code has become a formula, and the show, for all its high points, start feeling dangerous at times. And then there's the ending. We don't need to dwell on it, but the fact that the show with such a brilliant first season ended the way it did, twice if you count the revival, is its own testament to how hard it is to maintain quality across a long run. The Boys is a show that is recent enough but still stings. The Boys Season 1 is visceral, sharp, brutal satire. And the moment that crystallizes the entire premise, the moment that tells you exactly what kind of show this is Translucent. A superhero who can turn his skin invisible, caught by Butcher and the boys, and then systematically taken apart and killed in a way that shows you that near gods can bleed, that they can be beaten, that these ordinary people ground down by these corporations and these superpower celebrities actually have a fighting chance. The show is promising you this is a story about ordinary people taking down extraordinary ones. Superheroes versus the little guy. Corporate power versus working class rage. And for a while, it delivers on that. Season 1 is tremendous. But somewhere in the later seasons, The Boys becomes something different. It becomes a show about superheroes rather than a show about people who fight them. Homelander becomes the main character. The supes get more and more screen time. The political satire gets broader and louder and less precise. What started as a tightly controlled, darkly funny indictment becomes, appropriately enough, a spectacle. A show that, the very thing it was satirizing, got too big and too shiny and lost the mean, scrappy, dangerous quality that made its first season so compelling. So what is the actual cause of all this? Because it's not just a coincidence that so many shows follow this pattern. Here's the truth. A first season is made under pressure, with a singular vision and usually with something to prove. The writer's room is energized. The showrunner has been sitting on this idea. The director, sometimes the director, one person with a unified aesthetic, is pouring everything in. The budget is being spent carefully because nobody's sure that there will be a second season. Every scene has earned its place, and the aesthetics reflect this. this. The lighting in season 1 of these shows is almost always more textured, more deliberate, more cinematic. Think about how different The Walking Dead looks in those first 6 episodes compared to season 5 or season 11. Think about the color palette of Dexter's first season versus his later ones. Think about how True Detective uses darkness and natural light in ways that later seasons never quite managed. Because in season 1, a cinematographer has a specific locked-in vision, and that vision, the look of the show, is part of what makes the story land. It's not decoration, the aesthetic is the tone. And when shows go longer, when new directors rotate through, when the pressure is on to deliver more content faster, that singular vision gets diluted. The show starts to look like television instead of looking like itself. Then there's the writing. Long-running shows have to make decisions that create depth. Characters survive when they should die. Storylines get extended because an actor is popular. New characters get added because something in the network wants more, and each of those decisions is a small withdrawal from the account of tension and consequences that made season 1s feel urgent. By later seasons, you've seen enough to know that the show won't go too far. The stakes feel managed, and managed stakes are comfortable. But comfortable isn't what makes great television. The best season 1s feel like they could end in disaster, like the show doesn't have a safety net. Like anything could happen. That's the feeling. And it is, almost by definition, temporary. Here's what I want to leave you with. None of this means that later seasons can't be great. Trinity and Dexter is great. Certain arcs of The Walking Dead are great. But even when they're great, fantastic, they're usually great in a different way. A more conventional way. They become shows that are executing well rather than shows that are discovering themselves. And there is something irreplaceable about the discovery phase. When the concept is still alive, when the aesthetic is locked in, when the story could still go anywhere, when, as a viewer, you feel the same electricity as the creative team, the sense that nobody quite knows where this is going, and that uncertainty is absolutely electric. That's what season 1s have. And every show on this list, whether they peaked immediately like Prison Break in True Detective, or had great moments later like The Walking Dead and Dexter, or slowly lost their edge like Stranger Things and The Boys, they all had it for one perfect, unrepeatable run of episodes. And chasing that feeling is, honestly, a big part of why we watch television in the first place. If you've made it this far, first of all, thank you. You're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is for. And if you want deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe to Twisted Television. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And if you agree to any of this, or if you violently disagree with it and think I'm wrong about your favorite show, drop it in the comments, because that conversation is exactly what this channel is built on. I'll see you in the next one.